Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. My name is Jeff Hildebrandt, and I'm the Global Vice President of Marketing here at LifeWave. I'm thrilled to welcome you to our February Product Connect webinar. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here with us today. Now, as we gather here, I want to take a moment to acknowledge a very special milestone. This year marks the 20th anniversary of our journey, a journey of innovation, dedication, and passion. Now, LifeWave has always been at the forefront of transformation and innovation. From our inception as a lifestyle company focused on energy and athletic performance enhancement, we've continually grown and adapted. Our journey has seen us evolve into an anti-aging pioneer, then making groundbreaking strides as a stem cell-focused enterprise. Now, each of these evolutions not only marked our growth, but also deepened our commitment to enhancing human life through cutting-edge solutions. Now we stand on the brink of our most significant transformation yet, evolving into a technology company. But not just any technology company. No, in a world brimming with generic tech solutions, LifeWave stands apart by infusing life into that technology, led by visionary and innovator David Schmidt. Now, 2 decades of transforming lives, and it's been possible because of you. Your support, your belief in our mission, and your role in our story have been absolutely pivotal. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for being an integral part of this 20-year journey. Now, reflecting on the recent past, I'm excited to share that we had an incredible January. Our sales continue to grow and show the strength of our life-changing products. But more importantly, each of those sales represents a life positively impacted, health improved, a family supported. In these moments of change, these stories of transformation that drive us every day, it's your support that makes all of this possible. So today we're here to take a deep dive into a discussion on 2 of our incredible products, X39 and Silent Nights. Now, they're not just products, they're a culmination of cutting-edge research and innovation aimed at enhancing your well-being and quality of life. And it's certainly relevant in this time. Do you know that according to the latest research, nearly 1 in 3 adults struggle with sleep? It's a foundation to our health affecting everything from our mood to our immune system. Yet millions of people lay awake at night and cannot sleep. So Silent Nights comes into play, offering a revolutionary solution to this widespread challenge. It gently nurtures restfulness, which cultivates restorative sleep and does so without drugs or stimulants. So now it's my absolute honor to introduce a man whose vision has been the driving force behind our transformative products, David Schmidt, our founder, CEO, and the inventor behind LifeWave technology. David's pioneering work has not only paved the way for us to celebrate our 20th anniversary, but also brought us here today to discuss innovations that continue to bless lives and improve health globally. David, without further ado, I'd like to welcome you to the call to share your insights and the science behind these incredible products. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Jeff, great to see you, and an appropriate choice of ties today.
I'm trying to match the branding on Silent Nights, so I appreciate
better job than me. Well, this is going to be a very interesting webinar today because we're going to take the discussion in a few places that I think are going to be a very pleasant surprise to our brand partners and to our community. They're going to learn some things about sleep that they may not have known before. And just as to remind everyone, I am not a medical doctor. I'm an inventor, and the information that we're providing is purely for information. So if people find the information of use, they should go to their medical doctor or their healthcare practitioner to seek further guidance. But we're not providing any type of medical advice. So just to make that clear.
That's fair enough. Well, it certainly is a relevant topic. I mean, sleep is something that I'm guessing a vast majority of people nowadays are struggling with, and we certainly have some solutions that can help with that. So look forward to your insights and excited for the direction, whichever direction you take it in.
Let's get started, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time left over to answer some questions. So it's great to see everybody. And actually, I would like to start in a place that is just worth noting, because many of us here in our community who are practitioners of natural health, we want to support our health with proper diet, drinking lots of water, getting proper amounts of sleep, exercising regularly, and then using natural products like LifeWave to help maintain our health. many of us in our community elected not to get vaccinated because we were concerned that this was a new drug and a new technology. It hadn't gone through proper development, proper safety tests, and yet we were told publicly that the vaccines were safe and they didn't produce any side effects. And just out a few days ago, Moderna, of course, who is one of the producers of the mRNA vaccine, the other is Pfizer here in the U.S., they warned that the mRNA vaccines carry toxicity risks. So we're not going to spend any more time on it than this, but you can go ahead and Google this for yourself, and you'll easily see what they're referring to here. I think another thing that is worth pointing out is that here in the state of Florida, where I live and where we have our research lab, we are absolutely blessed to have a phenomenal Surgeon General. And this gentleman was just on Tucker Carlson tonight, for those of you that watch that show, so you can see him articulate this. And what he has said is, after reviewing information for the Center for Disease Control here in the U.S., he determined, based on the data and based what the CDC was saying, was that there were significant risks and unknowns regarding the mRNA vaccines. So he wants to put a halt to their use in the state of Florida. The basic reason here is because there is foreign DNA in the mRNA vaccine that is a contaminant, and it is getting into the cells because of the lipid nanoparticles. Normally this wouldn't happen, but because of the delivery system that the mRNA vaccine uses to get into the cell, now this foreign DNA poses a significant concern. There certainly hasn't been enough safety testing done to determine what level of concern. We're obviously not going to be talking about this the entire time today, but I did want to bring it to your attention. For us in the natural healthcare community, I think this is vindication that our concerns over risks with these vaccines was warranted and also legitimate, and they should not have been dismissed. There's, of course, a lot more out there. We also had performed 2 studies with medical Dr. Brian Daly at a hospital in New York, and we showed that there was a significant inflammatory response even months after people getting the COVID vaccine. So we were certainly concerned about this years ago when they first rolled this out. Okay, so let's move on to something perhaps a little bit more relevant for our talk today, and that is going to be on the subject of X39 and Silent Nights. And we're going to be taking this in a few really fun directions today as we look at the benefits of getting a proper night's sleep. And we're also going to look at the role that sleep deprivation plays in our health. This is also a reminder that we are not making any claims that any of our products treat or cure any disease. Our products are for general wellness. The only claim we make about Silent Nights is that it's going to improve the quality and the length of sleep, which we've documented in clinical studies. And we're going to be showing one of those today. So I think the first thing to discuss here is looking at something rather obvious, which is going to be the connection to sleep and aging. So when the premise of our business today, as it's evolved over time, is that we want to look at mechanisms that will allow us to stop the aging process and preferably become younger and stay as young as possible and as long as possible. And this has a number of extraordinarily valuable outcomes, not just for ourselves, but also for society. So imagine if people were young and healthy and they weren't as susceptible to disease. This would be an amazing thing because it would drive healthcare costs down all across the globe, saving trillions of dollars over a period of many years. So there is a fundamental place for this technology in the scheme of global healthcare. So that's one of the reasons why we should look at this. Another reason to look at this is that, of course, it improves quality of life. Many of us are going to work up until we're 65, 70 years old or more. And by the time we retire or have extra time with our families, that's the time when the body, in most people, has broken down and their bones are weak. They've experienced sarcopenia, muscle wasting, or maybe they have a chronic disease like arthritis or something even more severe. And people aren't able to enjoy the final years of their lives. How tragic this is. So, very important reason why we want to present technology for helping the body to stay as young as possible, as long as possible, so that we can extend lifespan and improve the quality of life for people. So when you decide to retire, you can do it and you're still young and healthy and active and enjoy those years with family and friends. So let's go ahead. So that's one of the reasons why we should be interested in doing this. So not surprisingly, poor sleep is linked to biological aging. And we're going to be breaking this down in some detail. Also, not getting a proper night's sleep is going to make us more susceptible to certain types of disease, like Alzheimer's disease. So, for example, when you sleep at night, it's going to have an effect on your cognition, on your memory. It's even said now by neuroscientists that the length of sleep determines the ability of your brain to store long-term memory. So by not getting enough sleep, you're actually, over time, hindering your memory. With respect to biological aging, there's a very simple link here. And it's that during sleep, we're going to be managing inflammation. We're going to be managing the metabolism, managing the production of hormones. And if we're not getting enough sleep, then inflammation can turn into a chronic condition, which of course has a detrimental effect on our immune system and could make us more prone to disease. So when we think of aging, we also think of inflammation in the sense that chronic elevated levels of inflammation, which now go by a term called inflammaging, will damage healthy tissue. It'll damage the DNA and cause us to age more quickly. So getting a good night's sleep is not just a matter of feeling good the next day. It's how we look at the big picture of how this is going to have an impact on our overall health. For those of you that are fans of Henry Cavill, who played Superman, when he was training for that role, his trainer insisted that he get at least 9 hours of sleep every night because he had to put on a lot of muscle. He had to eat properly. He was having very, very difficult workouts because he had to put on all this muscle to play the Man of Steel. And this is because when we're getting proper sleep and enough sleep, this is when our hormones are going to optimize. For men, we're going to spike our testosterone levels. Our nitric oxide levels are going to go up. Blood flow improves. And of course, that's when we have time for tissue repair so we can grow muscle. Sleep problems and sleep deprivation is also associated with things like depression. Of course, if we lose a loved one, it's totally normal to experience depression, but we don't want to live in a state of depression all the time. And interestingly, that it's been found that there is this correlation along with other disease. So thought that would be a good place to start with that article to make a general statement. So let's go on and look at some different studies. What else would we want to look at with aging? What are the type of things that we should be concerned about? Well, one of the things that we talk about on LifeWave Connect very often is that it's super important that you have a strong foundation. What that means is we want our community to be getting regular exercise to support the health of the cardiovascular system, to help support bone density. We don't want to get to be 60 or 70 and experience muscle wasting and be weak and frail. Of course, when we don't exercise, we also are not supporting the density of the bones in the body. So resistance training is absolutely critical throughout our lives. That could be body weight exercises or it could be weight training. But interestingly, as we might expect, if you're eating right, if you're exercising right, you're taking supplements, doing all these health things, but you're not getting proper sleep, you could still be prone to illness. So it's an important part of the overall picture. And here is a study linking sleep quality and duration, which we're going to show that Silent Nights helps to support both, that is linked to frailty in an older population, right? This is not a surprise, but it's something that we should be thinking about because we want to be in a regular habit of good sleep. So that is a habit that takes care of us our entire lives. Again, not surprisingly, our memory, our ability to process information, cognition, is linked to the quality of sleep. One of the things that happens during sleep is that it will help to remove the beta amyloid 2 protein. Accumulation of beta amyloid 2 protein is strongly correlated with Alzheimer's disease. So we're not making the claim that our product will prevent Alzheimer's. We don't have a study showing that, so that would be irresponsible. What we can say is that what you can do to support the quality and the length of your sleep is going to support overall cognition. And here's a study that you can read through that shows this. Sleep disorders are associated with a higher incidence of cognitive decline and dementia. So that's the bad news. The good news is there's many things that you can do to support quality of the sleep. For example, let's talk about one or two of those things now. So this is not a big depressing message, right? We always want to have hope and show solutions. One of the things that you want to do is sleep in a room that is as dark as possible. When the room is dark, that is naturally going to turn on melatonin production. So even having a small amount of light coming into your room could interfere with the quality of sleep. So that's one of the things that you can do to set the mood. Another thing that you can do is keep your feet warm. Interestingly enough, research has shown that when your feet are warm, you sleep better and you can even sleep longer. So these are very simple biological hacks, as they were, to improve the quality of sleep. Obviously, you don't want to be taking stimulants too close to bedtime. You don't want to eat too close to bedtime. I know this is sometimes in cultures like in Spain, they tend to eat dinner very, very late. This isn't really so optimal because it's going to potentially interfere with the quality of the sleep. Not to also mention, recently you may have seen on social media that when I was in Japan, I had an opportunity to meet the #1 sumo wrestler of all time. Well, if you ever wonder how they get those sumo wrestlers so big and heavy, They feed them gigantic amounts of food, they drink beer, and then they get put to sleep right away. And that's how they're storing all that body fat. So you don't really want to be consuming a lot of food and alcohol too close to bed because that's just going to get stored as body fat. So those are just a few very practical things that you can do. Okay, let's move on here. Many of you now, as we're getting into the beginning of the year here, we're coming off of the holidays. Some of you are made New Year's resolutions. You're carrying a little extra body weight. That's so totally okay. I hope that you enjoyed your holiday season and your new year. Nothing wrong with that. Don't feel guilty. But now it's time to commit to an exercise program, commit to eating healthy, commit to drinking enough water and getting proper sleep and using products like the patches and supplements for your health. How does sleep fit into this picture of losing some extra body fat? I don't think we would normally think about this, right? So when someone wants to lose body fat, we think in terms of exercise and diet. And this is not necessarily the best way to think about it. It's certainly not the entire approach. What I mean by that is what we eat is certainly important, but when we eat is equally important. The amount of time that we eat is important. So, for example, practicing techniques like intermittent fasting, limiting the window with which you eat is critically important because that has an effect on hormone production in the body. And we can see this from a point of view is that when there were shortages of food, which is for most of human history, in response, the body had to produce extra amounts of growth hormone and testosterone and reduce insulin to respond to that food shortage. Well, what's going on there? Very simple way to think about this is that when we're not eating, we have to draw on fat for energy. That means growth hormone and testosterone have to go up. That means we're getting preservation of our muscle tissue and we're burning fat. Pretty great deal. Soon as we eat, now we're going to turn on insulin. Insulin is going to be responsible. Obviously, it plays a role with blood sugar, but also for storing fat. So if we restrict the amount of time that we're eating, this is one way of managing calories, but it's also a way of managing hormones. What doesn't usually enter the equation is sleep. The role that sleep will play in helping to balance out hormones and ultimately the metabolism. So if you scroll down here through this article, there's going to be a very nice disclosure on the relationship between sleep and hormones, but I'm going to make it very, very simple in the window of looking at weight loss. Two of the hormones that will increase during sleep are going to be growth hormone and testosterone. So what this means, of course, is that as long as we are exercising, we're going to be able to produce more muscle. And as a result, muscle is going to use calories. And as our body composition changes, this means, of course, that we are going to be able to reduce our body fat because we have a better metabolism, a stronger metabolism. Muscle is, of course, using calories. Fat is not. Another thing that happens when we sleep as a consequence is growth hormone is involved in tissue repair. And of course, we know a lot about stem cells and tissue repair because of the discussions that we have on X39. So sleep is often an overlooked factor when we're thinking about weight loss. So for those of you that maybe have struggled with weight loss in the past, or more properly, reducing body fat, then one area that you could look at is what's the quality of my sleep and am I getting enough sleep? Am I getting to bed early enough? Okay. So to that point and being a little bit more direct, here's a study on the role that sleep deprivation plays in weight loss and maintenance of body mass and composition. And we're going to scroll down here a little bit, and let's go down towards the end to get to the bottom line. Okay. Disturbed sleeping patterns in terms of both quantity and quality. And this is what we look at with Silent Nights. It's also what we've looked at with X39. We want to look at what is the, can we have our product improve not only the length of time, the amount of time that someone's sleeping, but can we improve the quality? And there's measures for that. And so with Silent Nights, we have found, along with X39, I should say, X39 and Silent Nights both improve sleep quality. Silent Nights will improve the length of sleep in addition to quality, and by significant amounts. So disturbed sleeping patterns are documented. And then this is interesting. They have a change in energy intake, and mostly from snacking. So in other words, when people aren't sleeping properly, they're going to have a tendency to snack on foods that are rich in fats and carbohydrates because they're satisfying. And of course, this is going to contribute to people storing body fat. It also really messes up the body's endocrine system. It can play a detrimental role in our adrenal response with our stress hormones. So it has a cascading effect. Just simply not getting enough sleep has a cascading effect on our hormones in a variety of areas. But here we see a study that's showing the link between sleep deprivation and its ability to interfere with our ability to lose body fat. So we talked about cognition before. We did a study back around 2010 on the carnosine patch. And one of the things that we wanted to see, which is a concern for pretty much everyone as we age, is what can we do about cognition, memory, focus, and even the speed at which people process information. And it was incredibly rewarding to find out that in the study that we did, principal investigator were Tom and Helen Budzinski, that using the carnosine patch with people over the age of 60 could in fact restore our body's ability to process information. The speed of processing improved and memory and focus improved. We can use sleep as a means to support our overall health and, very importantly, the quality of our memory and our cognition. So here's an article that gets into talking about exactly how this works. And actually, the studies on sleep and cognition are extraordinarily detailed in terms of the information that's provided. There's quite a bit of neuroscience involved, so we're certainly not going to dig into it in any detail like that. But what I do want to draw attention to is the role that sleep is playing in long-term memory. And we can see this quote here by Matthew Walker, professor of neuroscience at UC Berkeley. And this was done with MRI scans of the brain. In our studies, we've used a piece of equipment called a P3. It's EEG, and we've been able to develop mapping of the brain to show how X39 improves memory and focus over about a period of 3 weeks. And there's a very functional shift in the way information is organized in the brain when using X39. But you can see here that when the brain waves slow down, so we're going from now most people are in a beta state. They could go down lower into an alpha state, which would be a state of relaxation. Then you go into a theta state during sleep, and then even deeper still is in a delta state. So you can see that when the brainwaves slow down from good quality sleep, it serves as a courier service transporting memories from the hippocampus to permanent storage. So what this simply means is that if we're not getting enough sleep and the quality of the sleep is impaired, then our long-term memory suffers as a consequence. And it's easy to see how this would happen over a long period of time. Now, when we're thinking about how we can maintain the quality of our life over a long period of time, in other words, we develop strategies so that we can stay on a regular program of exercise. So many of you may not have started an exercise program, still the beginning of the year, so I'd encourage you to do so. Start with something small and say, I'm going to take 5 or 10 minutes every morning, and I'm going to do a maximum number of air squats, call them deep knee bends if you wish, and a maximum number of push-ups. That's it. I'm going to start with that for my first month just to get my body back in the cycle of exercising. And then you can progressively move up into other things. But we build this foundation and this long-term commitment because we want to have throughout our lives sufficient strength and stamina so that if we do get injured, we can recover quickly. We think about inflammation the same way, is that you could have something that you eat that you're allergic to. You may not even know. So for me, it used to be almonds. I used to eat almonds. I would enjoy them, and then a few minutes later, I would start sneezing or I would get teary-eyed. Fortunately, I was able to get rid of that food allergy. But the important thing is that foods that you're consuming could be causing a very low-level allergic response in the body, leading to mild inflammation. The process of metabolizing food is going to lead to oxidative and inflammatory stress on the body anyway. And if you're here in the United States, you're more than likely consuming genetically modified food, which is highly inflammatory. Or we could be consuming foods that are high in gluten, and that's going to lead to an inflammatory response. So it's very difficult to get away from this because we're immersed in 4G and 5G. That's going to cause an inflammatory response in our body. So we've got to be proactive. We have to lead healthy lifestyle, which is not difficult with a little bit of planning. Take supplements that are going to help moderate the inflammatory response, things like NAC, N-acetylcysteine, things like curcumin. Manage the inflammatory response, and then use technology like the patches to round out your overall program. But a silent killer, if you will, when we look at it in the long term of anti-aging, is going to be sleep deprivation, because it can lead to these elevated levels of inflammation, which over time is going to have a detrimental effect on the way our body ages. In fact, one thing that we know is that chronic levels of inflammation will damage the DNA, will damage healthy tissue, and absolutely have an adverse effect on how we age. It'll age us more quickly. When we study species here in the lab, and we look at species that don't age, one of the things that you see is that they have complete control over oxidative stress and the inflammatory process. So this is another really important reason why we want to be able to get enough sleep. And as you can see here, two of the big killers, heart disease and diabetes, are, of course, linked to inflammation and are linked to not getting enough sleep. All right, now let's get to some of the good news. We talked a lot about the problems of not getting enough sleep. We've talked about some solutions, and now we want to get into some really exciting information. Some of this you may not have seen before, so I'm really looking forward to presenting this to you. One of the things you should have in your toolkit is a melatonin supplement. And I'm not a medical doctor, but I'd advise that you speak with your practitioner about doses as high as 60 milligrams in the case of emergency, or 3 milligrams to 10 milligrams for occasional use as needed. And what do I mean by that? Well, we're going to take a look at that here. Melatonin is now being thought of as perhaps the most important antioxidant in the body. We often speak of glutathione as being the body's master antioxidant, which it absolutely is. However, the broad effects of melatonin are just now really being appreciated for its role as an antioxidant. So historically, melatonin has been thought of as a hormone, plays a role in sleep, and that's pretty much it. But now it's being found that melatonin actually has very broad effects. It's produced in small amounts during the day and has these, and acts like an antioxidant to protect tissue from damage, but also do a number of very surprising things. So this is a nice study. And one of the things it's showing, which is surprising, is melatonin's role in the mitochondria. So often, we think of some other antioxidants like glutathione as being involved in production of energy in the mitochondria, but here's some new evidence showing that melatonin, in fact, plays a role. Now, this is going to scare some of you initially, but let's talk about it. Melatonin is a master regulator of cell death. That sounds bad, but let's look at what this actually means. We want old cells to die, and we want them to go through a process called autophagy. There's now a phenomena that's being looked at for many years now in the age reversal community, and it has to do with what's called zombie cells. And this simply means that some cells, after they die, they don't get broken down and eliminated. They tend to stay in the body. And this is a really bad thing because these zombie cells end up causing oxidative and inflammatory stress. In fact, there are some researchers in age reversal, like Aubrey de Grey, who are specifically focusing on the elimination of zombie cells as a means to significantly extend lifespan. Interestingly, a naturally occurring compound in peppers called fisetin, it has been shown to induce autophagy. In other words, get rid of these dead cells. So here's another example where God and nature provide a solution to improving our health and longevity. Of course, another way that we can do it is through fasting, because fasting is absolutely free, and it also provides a whole host of benefits, one of them being getting rid of these old cells that can cause inflammation and premature aging. But interestingly enough, sleep plays another role, as does melatonin. So melatonin is going to act to help manage the inflammatory process in the body and also help our body get rid of these old cells. Now, here's an interesting article, one because it goes back to 2008, and the authors of the study are making the case that melatonin has been overlooked and that it could play a role in the treatment of different disease, and it should be used in clinical trials more or less like a drug. And of course, the authors here are pointing out that it's safe and non-toxic, and there's not really a reason to do it. So what's the mechanism of what's going on here? Well, again, interestingly, they're pointing to melatonin's role in energy production. Now, in the process of what's called the electron transport chain, process that is part of converting food over into energy, process where we take fats and carbohydrates, we break them down, and we convert them over into universal energy, ATP. During that process, the body is going to form nitric oxide. Now, we know nitric oxide is a great thing. It's absolutely critical for the health of our cardiovascular system. And most men are going to know that nitric oxide production is strongly correlated with sexual performance. So we want healthy levels of nitric oxide. But like everything, we need to keep this in balance. And if we don't have enough antioxidants in the body, that additional nitric oxide or that nitric oxide could cause oxidative stress. And here it's being shown that melatonin is going to help to control the damage from nitric oxide, prevent damage. So the authors are suggesting this should be looked at clinically. Now, what about other parts of the body? We think of melatonin as being something that's restricted to the health of the brain. But now we're seeing, okay, well, actually, melatonin's effects are very broad. It plays a role in energy metabolism. What else? Well, interestingly, we would almost never associate melatonin with the health of our liver. But here's a study, an article that's showing exactly that. And in fact, extensive studies, right down over here, show that melatonin may be a suitable therapeutic molecule to reduce liver damage after sepsis. So again, this is something where we traditionally think of glutathione as the master antioxidant in the body. It's going to be found in very high concentrations in the liver. Glutathione is necessary for detoxification. But here's another weapon that we have at our disposal, and it's nothing more complicated and nothing more expensive than melatonin. And obviously safe because it's naturally occurring in the body. So let's say that you are an individual that maybe has a fatty liver, or you drank too much alcohol when you were younger and you're having some problems with your liver now. Here is something else that you can look at as a means to help support the health of your liver, melatonin. Now, I'm going to show you a clinical study on this, but I just happened to find this on Nordic Natural's website, and I wanted to see if there was actually any study about it. But a correlation between melatonin and the health of the lungs. This one seems a little bit far out there, but this article does a very nice layman's overview of the correlation between melatonin as an antioxidant and the health of our lungs. And here is even a nice breakdown on the broad effects of melatonin and then melatonin's role in supporting the health of the lungs. But let's get right over to the clinical study because it's very, very interesting. Not only is this showing that melatonin is good for the health of lungs, but we get into the detail here of melatonin's role in treating respiratory diseases. So what this is suggesting is that we might be able to use a melatonin supplement to prevent or treat common respiratory problems. So let's say you're suffering with asthma, you're suffering with seasonal allergies, making it difficult for you to breathe. Melatonin is a potential antioxidant to look at that could assist you. Now, last but not least, I had to mention this one since we started with this. It's melatonin's role as an antiviral. And there's actually quite a few studies with this. There happen to be studies surrounding the use of melatonin as a potential treatment in COVID-19. One thing that's very interesting, studies came out maybe about a year or two ago showing that nicotine is highly toxic to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And it was shown that people that were smoking had a lower incidence of getting infected with COVID. Now, maybe not surprisingly, here in the United States, they want to start banning nicotine patches. There are certain politicians who I won't mention that are all in favor of legalization of marijuana, but yet they want to ban nicotine. I wonder why. Could it be that because nicotine is effective at killing COVID? In any case, here's something that's on the market now that has potential antiviral effects, and that is going to be melatonin. And just going through this, since I'm taking a lot of time, this shows, in fact, that melatonin plays a very broad role as an antiviral. For example, there are different types of manifestations of the herpes virus. We know that there is herpes on the lips, genital herpes, there are shingles, right? All manifestations, different types of the same virus. And it's found that melatonin plays a role at interfering with viral replication. So again, those of you that may be suffering with cold sores, you're suffering with shingles, genital herpes, melatonin is an antioxidant that interferes with viral replication. I should also mention, just for the sake of completeness, there are a number of things that will do that. Glutathione is a big one. So if you're suffering with those viral infections, I definitely recommend you using a supplement of NAC. Okay. And I'm going to have to go through this quickly, so we'll just use this for reference. We have 3 different studies up in our back office, and here is a nice overview of them. Again, this is all in your back office under resources. You can go down to Silent Nights and take a look at these. And here's an example that was done by Dr. Norm Shealy. Many of you know who he is. Very prominent medical doctor and neurosurgeon, talking about the benefits of Silent Nights. Long story short, we found out that Silent Nights increases the amount of time that somebody sleeps and also the quality of sleep. So those are all there in the back office. So, Jeff, I went a little bit longer than I maybe had planned to, and I do want to get into some questions, but this is all to say that when we're talking about our health, that we normally think of eating healthy and exercising and sleep. While we recognize it to be important, maybe some of us underestimate how important sleep actually is.
And what an incredible wealth of information and studies on melatonin and the effects. I mean, I I just was taking notes the entire time. So lots of really, really good and useful information. So getting into then some of the questions, there were a couple of reoccurring themes that came up, in the questions. So I'll try to maybe hit on maybe 2 or 3 in the time we have left. So one of them was the relationship, X39, and you talked a little about it, the quality of sleep, Silent Nights, the quality and the length of sleep. But then we also have a third thing that we introduced last year, which was the dream, dream aromatherapy spray. So can you talk a little bit about that and the relationship to maybe restful sleep and good night's sleep?
Yeah, certainly there are many tools that people have at their disposal. And now, of course, our brand partners here in the United States know that we're coming out with an oral supplement that they're able to take to support the quality of sleep. We've spoken a little bit in the past about the importance of amino acids like taurine in improving sleep. But in any case, the way that these puzzle pieces fit together is that X39 we've seen improves production of GABA. And GABA is going to put our bodies into a state of relaxation, and it primes the body to make melatonin. GABA also happens to be a control mechanism for BDNF. BDNF is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and that regulates stem cell activity in the brain. So by getting enough proper sleep, by putting our body into a state of relaxation, we can even support the way that our brain heals because of the improvements in GABA and BDNF. So Dream is functionally a product that has a blend of essential oils and other nutrients to help foster relaxation. And the interesting thing about it is that it does it very, very quickly. Most people, they use the Dream product, and a few minutes later, 10 minutes later, they're already feeling very, very relaxed. So, of course, it's a very safe, non-drug way for people to induce relaxation. So I would say that if people are using X39 during the day, if they really want to focus on their sleep, use Silent Nights at night, use a product like Dream, and then try some things like magnesium threonate, taurine, theanine, to round out an overall program. There's no reason why people should be suffering with a poor night's sleep.
So that kind of leads into the next question, and you mentioned several of these, but when you're doing X39, you're using Silent Nights in the evenings, maybe Dream. What level of supplementation or what additional supplements might you recommend? And for example, should someone be using Silent Nights and potentially supplementing with melatonin as well?
Yeah, the beauty of this is that there are a whole variety of supplements that people can use. Taurine is definitely a favorite of mine because it won't put you to sleep, but it helps with your body's, it helps put your body into a state of relaxation. It helps to calm the mind down. And it's also highly anti-aging. I'm sure we are going to find out that taurine plays a very significant, pivotal role in how our bodies age. It's just too critical. Another thing that we often recommend is magnesium threonate. So magnesium threonate enters into the brain. It can cross the blood-brain barrier. And of course, it's a source of magnesium, which we need anyway. Most people are deficient in magnesium, but this form will help to calm our body down and get our body into a state of relaxation. So those are certainly two of the nutrients I recommend. Theanine, which is found naturally in green tea, as a supplement, is a good way to help promote relaxation. So I wouldn't be necessarily using things to put a person to sleep. I would use things that foster relaxation, and then tools like the patches can help improve sleep length and quality.
And kind of as a last question here, and then we may close out depending on the time here. But in terms of a melatonin supplement, is there any research in if someone were to take that for an extended period of time, does that interfere with their body's ability to naturally produce that. It is taking a melatonin supplement recommended in the studies.
Yeah, the way that a person should look at this is the same way that you look at hormone replacement. There is going to be a period where your body may stop making those hormones naturally, and you end up with a few choices. So when it comes to, let's use two other hormones as an example, testosterone and growth hormone. Some people, they choose to get hormone replacement therapy, and that is so totally fine. That's an individual's decision. If they want to go that route, that's so totally okay. But there are alternatives. There are certainly many natural hacks for improving those hormones, some of which people don't want to do, like myself. I don't want to go in an ice bath for 20 minutes a day. I'm not going to do that. But I am going to exercise. I'm going to keep my body fat low. I'm going to practice intermittent fasting. I'll supplement where necessary to keep my testosterone levels elevated. And those blend of things, I've been able to get my testosterone levels regularly over 800. So in the range of someone around the age of 30 or so, without having to use hormone replacement therapy. So that would be first my personal choice. When it comes to melatonin, it's true that your body's natural production of melatonin is going to decline with age, but you don't have to supplement with it. I carry melatonin supplement with me for two reasons. Number one, because of all the travel I have. I take melatonin as part of an overall package to help me adjust to the different time zones. So recently I traveled around the world. I went from Florida to Europe to Japan and Taiwan to Utah and then back to Florida. So I literally circled the globe. And when I land in another country, I'll take a melatonin supplement, I'll use Silent Nights, I'll use AEON, I'll get a good night's sleep, and then I'm ready to go the next day. So that's one of the things that I do. The other thing is I'll use melatonin as an antiviral. So let's say when, there's been risks of when COVID was coming around, melatonin 60 milligrams was in my toolkit of things that I was going to have in case I got infected with COVID, right? Or, you're traveling on a plane and you're around a lot of people, for the holidays. It's a weapon in the toolkit that is a very powerful antiviral. So I would say that it's something that people should have in the event that they need it. The other thing I'd say is melatonin at 60 milligrams is used by medical doctors as a means of treating cancer. Many doctors find that it is a wonderful support to the immune system, and it has anti-cancer properties. Simple melatonin.
Incredible. So much good information. I wish we had more time. Unfortunately, we're at that point where we are just about out of time. But I know, David, I always like to give you an opportunity to any closing words for our community, anything you would like to share as we finish out this webinar.
Yeah, well, first I want to, thank our brand partners for being here today. And it's, of course, the reason why we're in business and we do what we do is we're at their service. And as we're getting into this time of year where people want to lose some extra weight, when they want to get in shape for summer, when they're thinking about this thing and the quality of their life, important thing is that there's always going to be solutions no matter where you're at, so that there's no need to feel that there isn't hope. There's always hope, and there's always people there to help you. So we have an incredible community of wonderful, loving, caring people that are there to help. So if you're someone that's on today and you feel a bit of desperation, you don't know where to turn, we have so many wonderful people here in our LifeWave community that want to help you and bring a solution to your problem.
Well, thank you so much, David. We certainly appreciate your wisdom and what you've shared and the useful information. It helps to empower us. We agree with you so much. Appreciate the brand partners. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, David. And we will see you next month. All right. Bye-bye.